Morrison government appears set to delay a scheduled rise, said not to delay a scheduled rise, should I say, in the superannuation guarantee ahead of next month's budget. The rumoured move has been lauded by former Prime Minister Paul Keating, who says proceeding with the legislated increase will make Australia a much fairer and more equal society. To discuss this and more, I'm joined here in Melbourne by columnist with the Herald and Weekly Times, Terry McCrann, and from Sydney by Sky News business editor, Ross Greenwood. Gentlemen, Terry, I'm going to start with you. Scott Morrison and Josh Frydenberg, are they running away from this super fight because they think the increase is a good idea? Or are they worried about the fallout of a nasty political fight with Big Super?
I think the bottom line, it's sort of all of the above, Rita, and it comes down to something very simple, that they don't think they can win this fight and they have a tendency to cave rather than actually fight the good fight. It's not in the best interests of workers, and it's particularly not in the best interests of low-paid workers or part-time workers, that there's no way in the world that putting money into super over a 40-year time frame for those sorts of people is ever going to build up sufficient balances to fund their retirement. They would be much better to have access to that money now and to be able to make those investments, and in particular to buy a home with that money now. We're probably going to end up with this bizarre mix of forcing people to put money into super, but then allowing them to take money out of super in order to be able to finance a home loan.
Well, Ross, there is a number of coalition backbenchers who are big on the idea of opening up super for first home buyers. Can you see the government doing that and almost having this compromise?
I just wonder really whether they've got the heart for this fight, Rita. I think that's the key. I think Terry's picked it up pretty well here. This is really all about money today or money tomorrow. And do understand that when times are tight and pay rises really aren't around the place, they're negligent. If you're going to increase the amount that employers are paying from the current 9.5%, it's in legislation, it's in stone that it will happen. And until out to 2025, it'll rise to 12% of your pay. Do understand that means that wage rises are going to be even more difficult to come by for most workers. And the second part about this also is just to contemplate long term. Many people would prefer to have this money today as compared to wait to have it when they retire. And ultimately, those people who need the money are the baby boomers. Those who are younger have got more money set aside in their superannuation balances because, after all, they were the ones who already started when the superannuation contributions were already at these high levels.
Absolutely. Now, in Victoria, we've seen these mass vaccination hubs opening up in Melbourne and Geelong, with Victorian Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine in front of the cameras at the Royal Exhibition buildings. Comes as the Andrews government announces a $50 million grant towards the establishment of homegrown manufacturing of the mRNA vaccines, such as Pfizer and Moderna. But Terry, what struck me today was the footage here. There weren't many people queuing up in Melbourne to get the vaccine. In fact, it seemed to be deserted. Have the health bureaucrats spooked the nation with their revised advice on AstraZeneca vaccine, and people are now too hesitant to actually be proactive and go out there and get vaccinated?
Well, absolutely, Rita. I mean, clearly they've polluted the atmosphere for the AstraZeneca vaccine. I mean, we started out by getting all these reports that you shouldn't take it if you were older. So we didn't actually get to that stage in Australia or in Victoria, that if you're aged over 60, you shouldn't take the vaccine. And then they flipped completely to say if you're under 60, as it became under 50, you shouldn't take the vaccine. So, I mean, who should take the vaccine? Somebody who's aged exactly 50, 51 like Brett Sutton is. Clearly, I mean, they've created, we've lived for the last 12 months with scare after scare after scare, starting with the virus, and we don't seem to have learned anything from that you can create scares about the cure, quote unquote, the vaccine. And we've got that situation that the vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, is now really, it's got a real question mark over it, not in terms of its efficacy in reality, but in terms of how the public see it. And there's no way that we're going to be able to replace that vaccine with either the Pfizer ones that we've got on order or indeed homemade Pfizer vaccines going down into 2022. It's far too late in terms of delivering that vaccinated society.
Ross, more broadly, I'm keen on your view on how Australia is tracking, not just with the vaccine rollout, but in preparing to rejoin the rest of the world. Are we tracking in the right direction? Can we expect for that to happen in 2021? How do you see the next chapter of this pandemic and this crisis?
There's a fundamental problem that is actually building in Australia's economy right now, and that is a lack of skilled labour. If you talk to any employer right now, they are screaming, trying to be able to hire people. It doesn't matter whether they're in pubs or clubs or restaurants or whether they're on construction sites, in manufacturing. There is simply not enough skilled labour because our borders are shut. Now, our borders need to open, and so anything that the government has done to have people reluctant to take these vaccines is a bad thing for the economy and is a bad thing long term for Australia to open up its economy. We're going to ultimately have vaccination passports. We're going to have to bring people into this country because otherwise that is actually going to not only put pressure on wages, but then on inflation and then on the Reserve Bank to raise interest rates, which would be about the worst thing, given the fact you've got a housing boom with people taking on these massive mortgages at the moment. And the one thing that could bring it all unstuck is if interest rates started to rise. So as I say, a lot depends on this right now, on making certain that not only do people here get vaccinated, but we can open our borders to make certain our economy can get back some sort of normality, as we all would like to have.
Oh, can't come soon enough. Now, Terry, just quickly, I'm keen to get your view on some of the polling I spoke about at the start of the show that shows, again, the economy is the most important issue for Australians when they decide their vote, and climate change and gender issues were way down on the list, according to the research commissioned by Nine. Does any of that surprise you?
Well, Rita, we may not get reality or an acceptance of reality from the political class and the elite, the media elite, but what those numbers are telling you is that we get reality from the people out there, the people watching this program, the people watching other programs, that they recognise that the thing that is fundamentally important in their lives is a functioning economy, one that creates jobs, as Ross has articulated so well. Unless we have a functioning economy, all the negatives that can impact on people's lives and impact on their health will flourish. So thank goodness for the people. They accept reality, and let's just hope that the political class would start to reflect that.
Yes, like I said at the top of the show, it seems the public is a lot smarter than the media and the activists and everybody else who obsesses about these issues when the public have got their eyes on the big picture. Ross Greenwood, Terry McCran, thank you so much both for your time this evening.
No problems at all.
Rita.